The Arcane Academy, a journey to wizardry. High up in the secluded peaks of the Stormvale Mountains stood a place shrouded in mystery, a camp known only to those who sought more than mere illusion. This was the Arcane Academy, a place whispered about in taverns and in the back alleys of cities. It was said that here, ordinary tricksters were trained in sleight of hand and misdirection, only to uncover a path to true magic if they proved worthy. Many came seeking fame or fortune, but only a few ever left as true wizards. Chapter 1: The Invitation. It was a crisp autumn morning when Rowan Bellamy received his invitation. As a traveling street magician, he had dazzled crowds with his card tricks, made coins vanish, and pulled rabbits from hats. His shows earned him enough coin to get by, but Rowan hungered for more. He had heard stories of wizards who could summon fire from thin air and move mountains with a thought. But those were just tales, weren't they? The invitation arrived in the form of a simple note, delivered by a raven. It read, "To those who seek true mastery of the arcane, journey to the Stormvale Mountains. There, under moonlit skies, your potential will be tested. Follow the raven, it will guide you." Rowan didn't hesitate. With little more than his worn deck of cards and a few possessions, he set out after the raven. Chapter 2: The Camp of Illusions. Rowan's journey was long, but at last, he arrived. Before him, hidden amidst the thick forests and fog, was the Arcane Academy. The camp appeared humble at first glance: wooden cabins, tents, and campfires. Young men and women bustled about, some practicing card tricks while others attempted coin manipulation or sleight of hand. Rowan could feel the air brimming with energy, though he couldn't yet tell if it was magic or just excitement. A tall figure, dressed in long, deep blue robes, approached him. "I am Master Veritas," the figure said. "Welcome to the Arcane Academy. Here, you will learn the craft of illusion, misdirection, and sleight of hand. If you prove yourself, you may touch the arcane secrets hidden beneath the surface. But first, we start with the basics." Rowan joined the other newcomers, eager to begin. For the first weeks, the students practiced what seemed like simple magic tricks. They learned the art of illusion, how to make a coin disappear with a flick of the wrist, how to distract the eye while the other hand prepared the next move. Rowan found himself growing impatient. He had expected to be learning spells, not refining the tricks he had already mastered as a street performer. But one night, as the full moon cast a silvery glow over the camp, something changed. Chapter 3: The Secret of the Academy. Rowan had stayed late after the evening session, practicing alone by the fire. His deck of cards lay scattered around him. Frustrated, he tossed one of them toward the flames. Instead of burning, the card hovered in the air, shimmering. Rowan stared in disbelief as the card spun slowly, surrounded by a faint glow. He reached out to touch it, and it fell lifelessly into the fire. The next day, Master Veritas summoned Rowan to the central pavilion. "You've had your first glimpse," the master said, his voice low. "But do not think that magic will come easily. The illusions you've learned are not mere tricks, they are the foundation of all magic. To manipulate reality, you must first understand how to manipulate perception." From that moment, the Academy's teachings shifted. No longer were they simple tricks of the hand. Rowan and the other students began to notice strange things, the way a shadow might linger too long, or how a flicker in the corner of their vision seemed like something out of place. They learned that the world was full of hidden currents, forces that only those with attuned senses could grasp. Master Veritas explained that real magic wasn't about incantations or gestures. True magic was about bending the rules of reality itself, and to do that, one had to first understand how to make the mind believe in what was not there. The illusions were the first step, a way of training the mind to see beyond the ordinary. Chapter 4, Trials of the Arcane. Months passed, and the training intensified. Students who had once merely shuffled cards now whispered words in ancient tongues that made the winds stir and the earth tremble. Rowan, along with a few others who had shown promise, was taken to the inner sanctum of the academy. Here, the true arcane arts were revealed. They learned how to summon fire with a breath, how to call the rain, and how to move unseen through shadows. The air hummed with energy, and every day, Rowan felt his connection to the unseen forces of the world grow stronger. But with great power came great responsibility. The academy was not just a place of learning, it was a place of trials. Students were tested not only in skill but in will. Those who sought to use magic for selfish gain were expelled, their memories of the academy erased. Only those who showed humility, wisdom, and restraint were allowed to continue. Rowan faced many challenges. He encountered illusions that seemed real, terrifying beasts conjured from the darkest corners of his mind. He fought against his own desires, his ambition threatening to overwhelm him. But each time, he overcame, guided by the teachings of the Academy and the wisdom of Master Veritas. Chapter 5, The Ascension. After years of training, Rowan was ready. Along with a handful of other students, he was brought to the highest peak of the Stormvale Mountains. There, under a sky filled with stars, the final trial awaited. The students were each given a task, to summon the spirit of the mountain itself, an ancient and powerful force. This was no illusion, this was real magic, the culmination of all their training. Rowan's heart raced as he stood before the mountain, feeling its ancient energy pulse beneath his feet. He closed his eyes, remembering everything he had learned, the sleight of hand, the manipulation of perception, the bending of reality itself. He whispered the incantation, and the air around him grew heavy with power. From the earth, a figure rose, a towering form of rock and stone, its eyes glowing with the light of the stars. Rowan could feel the mountain's spirit watching him, testing him. With a steady breath, he reached out, not with his hand, but with his mind, and the spirit bowed its head in acknowledgement. Rowan had done it. He had summoned the spirit of the mountain. He had become a true wizard. Epilogue, The Wizard's Path. Rowan Bellamy left the Arcane Academy, no longer a mere street magician but a true wielder of magic. He traveled the world, using his powers not for fame or fortune, but to protect the balance of magic in the world. The lessons of the Academy stayed with him always, the importance of humility, the power of perception, and the wisdom to use magic for the greater good. The Arcane Academy remained hidden in the Stormvale Mountains, waiting for the next generation of seekers to find their way. And Rowan knew that one day, he might return, not as a student, but as a teacher, to guide others on the path from illusion to true magic. The Arcane Academy, Legacy of Legends. The Arcane Academy had long been a place of mystery and power, hidden deep within the Stormvale Mountains, where ordinary magicians learned the art of true magic. For centuries, students of extraordinary skill passed through its hallowed halls, each destined for greatness. Their stories, whispered through the generations, became legends. Some returned to the academy as masters, guiding the next generation of wizards. Others carved their names into history, leaving behind a world forever changed by their mastery of the arcane. Chapter 1, The Greatest Students of All Time. The Academy had produced many gifted magicians, but few reached the pinnacle of mastery and fame as the Circle of Legends. These students were not only the most powerful of their era, but their influence rippled across kingdoms, nations, and magical realms alike. The first of these legends was Illyria Darkwood, a prodigy unlike any other. Even as a novice, Illyria's connection to the arcane forces of the world was extraordinary. Where others struggled with incantations, she seemed to bend reality with a mere thought. Her peers marveled at how she could conjure intricate illusions so lifelike they fooled even the most seasoned wizards. But Illyria was not content with illusions. She sought deeper mysteries, truths hidden even from the masters of the academy. Her hunger for knowledge drove her beyond the normal curriculum. She would spend nights in the ancient library, poring over forgotten tomes, whispering incantations from long-dead tongues. Her rise to mastery was meteoric. By the time she completed her final trial and ascended the ranks of the academy, she had not only mastered the elements but discovered a new form of magic, essence manipulation. With it, Illyria could directly interact with the life force of all living things. It was dangerous magic, rare, delicate, and volatile, but in her hands, it became a powerful tool for healing or destruction. Illyria stayed at the academy, becoming one of its most renowned teachers. Many students came to study under her, seeking to learn her mastery of essence magic, though few could handle its intricacies. Her presence at the academy became a symbol of its power and prestige, and her teachings continued to shape the curriculum for generations to come. Chapter 2: The King's Court Wizard. While some students like Illyria remained at the academy, others set out into the world, their talents needed in the realms of politics and war. Perhaps none was more famous than Tarin Windstrike, a former student who would rise to become the King's Court Wizard of Valoria. Tarin's story was one of humble beginnings. Born in a small fishing village, he had been an adept trickster as a child, entertaining locals with sleight of hand and minor illusions. But after receiving an invitation to the Arcane Academy, his life changed forever. Under the tutelage of Master Veritas, Tarin found that his talent for illusion extended far beyond parlor tricks. He had a gift for reading the winds and manipulating the forces of air and weather. Tarin's abilities came to full bloom during his time at the academy, where he honed his magic into something far greater. He could control storms, summon gales, and part the clouds. But beyond his raw power, Tarin was known for his charisma and sharp intellect. When he graduated, the King of Valoria, a kingdom ravaged by war, heard of his talents and sought his aid. At the royal court, Tarin used his mastery of weather magic to secure naval victories, ensuring safe passage for ships and turning the tide of battles. His reputation grew with every storm he controlled, every enemy fleet he sank. In time, he became the king's closest advisor, using his knowledge not only of magic but of politics and strategy to secure peace and prosperity for Valoria. Tarin's influence stretched far beyond the battlefield. He helped implement magical defenses across the kingdom, weaving wards into the walls of castles and fortresses, ensuring that the kingdom would stand for generations. When the wars finally ended, Tarin stayed at the court as a diplomat, mediating between kingdoms and using his magic to maintain balance and harmony across the land. Chapter 3: The Wandering Wizards. While some graduates of the academy found homes in courts or academies, others were drawn to the open road, seeking adventure and enlightenment across the world. One such traveler was Brynna Solwind, a brilliant and rebellious student known for her insatiable curiosity. Brynna was restless even during her time at the academy. While others delved deep into the structured teachings of their masters, she sought knowledge in every corner, every hidden place. She was an explorer at heart, always searching for the next horizon, the next great discovery. Her magic reflected her free spirit. She specialized in teleportation, moving through the world with a speed and grace that few could match. Upon graduating, Brynja vanished for years, leaving behind only rumors of her exploits. Some said she had crossed into other dimensions, while others claimed she had discovered lost cities or spoken with ancient spirits of the earth. What was known for certain was that Brynja's journey took her across the entire world, and everywhere she went, she left behind tales of wonder. She was a mediator between magical creatures and humans, a diplomat in realms where even the bravest dared not venture. Her exploits were many. She brokered peace between rival mage guilds, discovered lost civilizations, and even helped unravel a centuries-old curse that had plagued a forgotten kingdom. Yet despite her wanderings, Brynja always kept a small token from the Academy with her, a simple enchanted stone that would allow her to return to Stormvale whenever she wished. Though she rarely used it, she remained tied to the Academy, visiting whenever the wind called her back to the place where her journey began. Chapter 4: The Rival School. Of all the stories surrounding the Academy's alumni, few were as audacious or controversial as that of Lyra Ravenshade. Lyra had been a brilliant student, sharp, determined, and fiercely independent. But she had always clashed with the traditional methods of the Arcane Academy, often questioning its hierarchy and rigid rules. Though she excelled in her studies, Lyra felt constrained by the limitations imposed by the Academy. She believed that magic should be more open and accessible to those who had the will to learn, not only to those selected by ancient traditions. After completing her studies, Lyra made a bold decision: she would create her own school of magic. Lyra founded the Ashmere Institute, a smaller, more unconventional school hidden in the woods of Ashmere, a distant and quiet region far from the influence of the Academy. Her teachings were less structured than those of the Arcane Academy, focusing on experimentation, collaboration, and the breaking of magical boundaries. Lyra reached out to her former classmates, many of whom had become great wizards themselves, and recruited them as teachers. Kieran Flameshaper, a master of elemental fire, joined her, eager to teach a new generation how to control and wield the volatile force. Saria Moonwhisper, a talented enchanter, also came to teach students how to create powerful magical artifacts. The Ashmere Institute quickly gained a reputation as a place where innovation thrived, and though it never rivaled the Arcane Academy in size, its students often went on to become some of the most creative and influential magicians of their time. Lyra's decision to create her own path led to a new era of magical education, one that embraced freedom and individuality, shaping the future of magic in ways the old traditions could never have imagined. Chapter 5: The Legacy continues. As the centuries passed, the stories of the Arcane Academy's most outstanding students became legends. They were remembered not just for their magical prowess but for the ways they changed the world. Illyria Darkwood, Tarin Windstrike, Brynja Soulwind, and Lyra Ravenshade were only a few of the many names that had left their mark on history. The Academy itself stood strong, continuing to train new generations of magicians. Its halls were filled with the echoes of past masters, guiding the hands of young students as they learned the difference between illusion and reality, between power and wisdom. Though some went on to follow in the footsteps of the Circle of Legends, others forged their own paths. They became court wizards, adventurers, scholars, and protectors of ancient secrets. But no matter where they went, they carried with them the teachings of the Arcane Academy: humility, respect for magic's power, and the knowledge that true mastery was not just about bending the world to one's will, but about understanding the delicate balance that held it all together. And so, the legacy of the Arcane Academy lived on, through each new generation of students who came to its gates seeking to unlock the mysteries of magic, and through the legends of those who once called it home. The Arcane Academy, the unsolvable illusions. In the long history of the Arcane Academy, where the veil between illusion and reality was constantly blurred, there was a particular fascination with the art of illusion without the use of magic. Before students could even attempt to wield true arcane power, they had to master the subtleties of non-magical illusions. For many, this early training was a frustrating ordeal, a test of their patience, skill, and creativity. But for others, it was the true essence of magic, the ability to create the impossible without relying on arcane forces. Though most students moved quickly from these early exercises to the more alluring power of real magic, there remained a reverence for the few tricks and illusions that had never been solved. These illusions became legends in their own right, passed down from one generation of students to the next, whispered about in dark corners of the Academy's common rooms, and attempted again and again with no success. They were known as the unsolvable illusions. Chapter 1: The Glass Conundrum. The first of the unsolvable illusions was called the Glass Conundrum, an infamous trick performed by one of the Academy's earliest masters, Erasmus Cain, nearly 3 centuries ago. It was said that Erasmus was a master of sleight of hand and deception, long before he ever tapped into the world of magic. His performances dazzled audiences, not because they were flashy or filled with arcane energy, but because they defied logic. The Glass Conundrum was the most legendary of his tricks. The setup was deceptively simple. Erasmus would take a plain drinking glass, one that had been inspected by his audience, and place it on a table in the center of the room. He would then fill the glass with water and invite anyone from the audience to inspect it again. There were no tricks hidden in the glass itself. No secret compartments, no hidden levers, no enchantments. Then, before everyone's eyes, Erasmus would pass his hand over the glass, and the water would vanish completely. The glass would remain perfectly dry, as if the liquid had never been inside it. Erasmus would even invite his audience to inspect the glass once more, to feel its smooth surface, to check for any tricks. The water was gone, vanished without a trace. For decades, students of the Arcane Academy attempted to recreate this trick, always to no avail. Some believed that Erasmus had used a secret technique, a form of misdirection so subtle that no one could catch it. Others thought he had hidden a clever mechanical device within the table itself. And still others whispered that Erasmus had discovered a way to momentarily manipulate time, causing the water to evaporate in an instant. Despite countless attempts, no one has ever successfully recreated the Glass Conundrum without the use of magic, and the true method behind Erasmus's trick remains one of the Academy's greatest mysteries. Chapter 2: The Floating Coin. Perhaps the most famous of the unsolvable illusions was one performed by Myra Vallon, a student from a more recent era who became a legend for her impossible feats. Myra was known for her quick hands and quicker mind, capable of pulling off tricks that left even the Academy's most senior instructors scratching their heads. But it was the floating coin that cemented her reputation. The illusion began simply enough. Myra would stand in the center of a group of students, holding an ordinary silver coin in her hand. She would allow anyone watching to inspect it closely. Once everyone was satisfied that it was a normal, everyday coin, she would place it on the back of her hand, palm up. With a flick of her wrist, the coin would begin to float, slowly, steadily, hovering inches above her open hand. It would hang in the air as if suspended by invisible strings, yet no strings could ever be found. What made the illusion even more astonishing was that Myra encouraged spectators to walk around her, look from every angle, and even wave their hands underneath and around the coin. There were no wires, no mirrors, no tricks with lighting. The coin would float for as long as Myra wished, spinning gently in the air, defying all laws of gravity. When the trick was over, she would catch the coin between her fingers and hand it back to whoever had inspected it. There were no traces of enchantment, no hidden mechanisms, nothing to give away how the illusion had been performed. Many students and instructors tried to replicate Myra's feat, but none ever succeeded. Over the years, rumors began to spread that she had somehow found a way to manipulate the magnetic fields of the world, though no evidence of such an explanation ever came to light. The floating coin became one of the most talked about tricks in the Academy's history, an unsolved enigma that remains a challenge to illusionists and magicians alike. Chapter 3: The Vanishing Man. One of the oldest and most perplexing of the unsolvable illusions came from a former student named Reynard Fallow, a quiet but brilliant performer who attended the Academy nearly 100 years ago. Reynard was fascinated by the idea of disappearance and misdirection, and he spent years perfecting his craft. His most famous illusion, however, was known as the Vanishing Man. In this trick, Reynard would walk into the center of a circle of his fellow students, ensuring that he was surrounded on all sides with no cover, no mirrors, no props of any kind. He would then instruct one of the students to tie a thick rope around his waist, securing him tightly. Next, he would stand perfectly still, with his arms raised, inviting the audience to inspect him for any hidden devices. Then, in a single moment, without any flash or distraction, Reynard would disappear. 1 second he was standing there, and the next he was gone, vanished into thin air. The rope that had been tied around him would fall to the ground, coiled in the exact spot where he had stood. His disappearance was always seamless, with no smoke, no loud noises, no disruptions in the air around him. It was as if he had simply stepped out of existence. What made the Vanishing Man even more mysterious was that Reynard would always reappear in a different part of the room, untied and completely unharmed. He gave no indication of how he had escaped or where he had gone, and no one had ever found any secret passages or hidden compartments in the room. Despite extensive searches and investigations, the method behind his disappearance remained a secret. After leaving the Academy, Reynard disappeared from history altogether. Some say he retired to a quiet life, while others believe he found a way to truly vanish, never to be seen again. The method behind the Vanishing Man remains one of the Academy's most unsolved puzzles, and even modern magicians have been unable to replicate the trick without using magic. Chapter 4: The Shadow in the Mirror. The final, and perhaps most unsettling, of the unsolvable illusions was performed by Anya Blackthorne, a mysterious figure known for her eerie and often dark illusions. Anya's tricks often played with fear and the unknown, and the shadow in the mirror was her masterpiece. The setup for the illusion was simple: a mirror, framed in silver, stood on a pedestal in the middle of the stage. Anya would invite anyone from the audience to step up and inspect it. There were no hidden compartments, no distortions in the glass, no tricks of the light. It was a normal mirror, until Anya stepped in front of it. As she stood before the mirror, her reflection would shift. At first, it would simply move differently than her actual body, tilting its head when she stood still, blinking when her eyes were open. But soon, the reflection would become a shadow of itself, darkening and warping until it no longer resembled Anya at all. The figure in the mirror became something else, something alive. The shadowy figure would then step out of the mirror, still connected to Anya by an unseen thread. It would move independently of her, exploring the stage as if it had a life of its own. Those who witnessed it claimed to feel a cold presence, as if the shadow was more than just an illusion. It would walk among the audience, touch objects, and even speak in a voice that was both Anya's and yet not hers. When the performance ended, the shadow would return to the mirror, melding back into her reflection. The mirror would return to normal, and Anya would bow, leaving the audience in stunned silence. To this day, no one has been able to explain how Anya created the living shadow without the use of magic. Theories ranged from hidden actors to elaborate projections, but none of these explanations could account for the eerie sense of presence that accompanied the illusion. After leaving the academy, Anya disappeared from the public eye, but the shadow in the mirror remains one of the most chilling and unsolved illusions in the academy's long history. Epilogue: The Art of the Impossible. Though many students at the Arcane Academy eventually moved on to wield real magic, there was always a deep respect for the art of illusion without magic, the skill, creativity, and precision required to perform the impossible through sheer will and craftsmanship. The unsolvable illusions became a symbol of the ultimate mastery over the mind, a reminder that even in a world of real magic, there were mysteries that could never be fully explained. And so, the stories of the glass conundrum, the floating coin, the vanishing man, and the shadow in the mirror lived on, passed down through generations of students as the highest form of non-magical magic. As new magicians entered the academy, they were often reminded of these ancient tricks, not just as a challenge, but as a testament to the true power of the human mind, the ability to create wonder, awe, and mystery in a world where the impossible was an art form unto itself.